And then it goes very quickly into a lot more detail. But it's the workers' compensation program. Any questions or comments around that? Any color you want to add?
Primex, we went for them 3 years ago. They cover our workers' comp liability and unemployment. They've been offering the CAP program since we've been with them. The first year we went, we had a significant savings because we went from Health Trust to Primex. In the last 2 years, we've stayed within that 10%. It's proven to be helpful. Last year we had some claims, and being one single district, pretty catastrophic.
Sure.
Expensive for us if we have some issues, so it's worthwhile in the past.
So just to make sure it's coming through clearly, because it's a 3-year contract or agreement with them, they cap the increases at 10%. That's already been beneficial. So
we're at 1.4%. We went down 30% the first year, but 1.4% the second year and 10% last year when we did taxes.
where it could have gone significantly higher. So just to flesh that out for the taxpayers.
So do those claims stay on for 3 years?
They do.
Yeah. Do you know what the modification rate is?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Just curious, if you had a bunch of claims with them, how much money you probably would have saved by the 10% cap?
Right.
Yeah.
We had 2.
Okay.
Do they, I'm going to take a wild guess that they bring that back to you to try to get another 3-year contract next year?
Mm-hmm.
So we can bring that back to the board meeting, even if it's the next board.
Right.
But that's a great nudge on that, absolutely, to bring that back so that the community hears it. But we already know in the second year that
The end of the year,
that was a
they give
good way
us
to
a
go.
dashboard, kind of shows what happened over the year, so we can bring that back at the end of the year as well.
Yeah,
Give
so
them
keep that in mind.
information,
And it would also,
July.
yeah, that would be great, just to come back to it and give some hard numbers and share them out.
Sure.
Other questions, comments? All right, all in favor of approving the Primex CAP program WC, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We had the addition of the extracurricular stipend for James McDonald for the robotics team. So motion to approve, I just have to do it right, so following the rules. Motion to approve the proposed extracurricular stipend for James McDonald for the assignment of advisor to the robotics team. Do I have motion? Board's looking tired. Come on, we're gonna stretch run here.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed extracurricular stipend for James McDonald for the assignment of advisor to the robotics team.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second that.
Quick second by Scott. He's in. All right. Discussion, comments, questions?
Is this a new program, a new team?
It is not. We've had a robotics team in the contract for a few years. I think he's actually revised it and brought it back to the table, so we're excited about that.
Yeah, been getting a lot of attention with the, drawing a blank, the program. They just had a big summit down, Team Cayman's group. First robotics, so it's great to see this come back. So thank you to Mr. McDonald for stepping in for this. All in favor of approving this for robotics, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye as well. Appreciate it. And then we're back to the bookend, the other half of the discussion. I'm looking for a motion to approve up to $40,000 from the Sunapee Central School Facilities Capital Reserve Fund for the owner's project manager contract, which would be ongoing. If you can read that, that'd be awesome.
I'll make a motion to approve the $40,000 from Sunapee Central School Facilities Capital Reserve Fund for the PM contract.
Okay. Well done.
I'll second.
Doctor's gonna grab it. All right, so this comes back to your initial question,
Yep.
answering it sufficiently?
Yep.
So it's an up to, and we have the fund as
Right, just
180.
The 189,000 in the fund, just quick math, so if he was doing 15 hours for the next, 15 hours a week for the next, whatever it was, 11 months, it comes out to like $46,000. And there's no way he's doing 15 hours between now and then, every week. So we felt safe with that.
500 hours, 500 hours for the period, so
feel pretty comfortable we won't exceed that.
Yeah.
And I would expect that at this point, he's gonna be involved a little bit now with the selection process for the farm, then he's probably gonna go dormant for a little while.
Yeah, and I'd say he'll do a lot of gatekeeping over the summertime
Yeah.
with the firm, keeping them on
Yeah.
track as far as meeting our deadline.
Yeah.
Right, but it won't be to the extent of, I would say, not even close to 15 hours.
Yeah. And just a quick question, so the project manager versus the firm, do we expect that one or both of those are going to help with managing the public process around all of this?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes to both.
Yeah.
Yes, and somewhere on Central Street, Jim Borelli is smiling because Jim and I got up there, did our best, and it's a great relief to have somebody who does this for a living and has done millions of dollars in schools, be the ones that guide the whole community through. Meaning well is not always enough. So yes, they'll both be part of that. They both have a lot of experience in it. Any other questions or comments? Good discussion. All in favor of approving up to $40,000 from the Sunapee Central School Facilities Capital Reserve Fund for the Owner's Project Manager contract, please say aye.
Aye.
And again, 181 or 189,000? $189,000. I'm sorry, I didn't have it in front of me. Thank you for helping. Woo! So, one of the criticisms that Ed and I walked into when we joined the board 3 years ago is that there wasn't any discussion. So after tonight, I'm fully expecting there to be a criticism, there's too much discussion. But this is what we're signed on for, and this is what we do. So if these discussions drag on in the interest of the school district, whether or not everybody's tuckered out, this is exactly what we were elected to do. So I appreciate the great questions and lengthy discussion tonight. Information items. First one, proposed support staff.
So just putting in front of you the proposed support staff for next year, and also the SAU staff and directors, as well as non-support staff, custodians, bus drivers, and administrative assistants. So you see the gamut of folks that we'll be hiring next year. Just information.
Clear enough for new board members? It's a really good summary, at least I found my first couple years on the board, it's a really good summary of the village beyond the teachers, the specific classroom teachers that it takes to get to our U.S. News and Report third place ranking, all of these different parts of the equation for our success. All right, got this certified.
You got the CIP timeline, and that's again just information. When we talk about being accelerated and trying to move pretty quickly through this process, it's just so the whole board understood what that was coming from the CIP committee.
Yeah, and I guess going back to my previous question about managing the public process, I know that I see that there's things built in here, but I presume that this is all gonna be pretty nimble because it's gonna be based on their recommendations too and their guidance as to how to navigate and how to structure, manage,
Yes.
schedule, whatever.
Yeah, so we're gonna say, okay,
Yeah.
we've done this X number of times, these are the different ways we've handled it, this is what we're recommending, what do you think?
Yeah.
And then Gordon is gonna help us vet to that point, and the committee will weigh in on that. So we have,
Perfect.
we go from those examples of success, and then we figure out what we think is the best fit for our community, so we can be as effective as possible.
Yep.
I see more notes, what else you got?
No, that was it. Nope.
Yeah, it's, and just as, I think I've stated it a couple different ways. There's room in this to be assertive on the schedule, just so everybody understands it. Our urgency is driven to be able to get to a public forum or forums with the community. That has been our goal, is okay, how can we get those done as early as the last week of June, which is still the goal, it may not be realistic. And then we back up from there, and that's why we have such a tight timeline in the front. And we have more luxury of time in the fall when the plans are shared with the community and we go forward from now. This is the hurry up and go phase to get those resources in line. And this one, determination letter. Gordon, this one. Mr. Elliott.
So
So I can't.
I'll let Tara speak to it. So we go through a process and I'll tell her.
I've spoken at several board meetings, when we talk about indicators, we've talked about preschoolers and the amount of progress they're supposed to be making, or we've talked about completing evaluations within a timely manner. This is the summary of all of those indicators. So as you can see, we met requirements sufficient.
Yeah, back, little grid on the back of, the first page is the compiling of all of those, so thank you. Thanks for the good work. Did you wanna add anything?
It's just one of those things that it's good to get a zero, and it just speaks to, again, Tara and her staff, just the due diligence, because a lot of this really comes down to paperwork, unfortunately. For some of it, you know, it's making sure stuff gets.
It's high quality instruction, it's paperwork, quality, quality assurance, and having good relationships with families. All of those things play key roles in it.
She's downplaying that because we do instruction well, but it's easy to get done on paperwork real quickly.
It is.
Right, and it's just literally you have 14 days to hit this dead mark, and then you have another 10, and if you don't hit them, something happens, somebody forgets a mailing, and go, right, you get hit. So to get zero, it just shows you that we're being on the ball, so thank you.
Thank you very much. That brings us to manifests, and so we can do the AP and, well, that's only one for that, and the payroll, we can do both as one motion, so we're gonna go through two, looking for a motion on the AP manifest for 2019-20. Need a motion?
Make a motion for the AP manifest 2019-20, $106,629.45.
Thank you, Ed.
I'll second that motion.
All right, thank you, Scott. Any questions or comments? Again, these are what we do in between the meetings where we go down to the SAU, sit down, flip through, ask questions, and then initial. No other comments or questions. Can I already got my motion, now I'm getting tired. All in favor?
Aye.
Please say aye. Thank you. All right, fresh start. I am looking for a motion on the payroll manifests, please.
I'll make a motion for the payroll manifest 2019-19, $529,023.64, 2019-20, $243,966.33.
Thank you, Ed. Hush falls over the room.
I'll second it.
Next, thank you. Andy? Questions, discussion, comment? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the payroll manifest 2019-19 and 2019-20, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. We have our second public forum. If anyone would like to speak, we'd love to hear from you. Jan? For audio, does it work, it still works better for them to stand closer to you, right? Do you mind just standing at the top of the stairs when you speak?
Sure.
Just to make sure folks at home can hear.
I'd like, a question I have, and I really appreciate Mrs. Claus, all of your questions. I think these are questions that need to be asked. But I'd really like to know when the project management contract would be available. I'd like to see what the scope of that is. When would the public be able to see that?
Probably after Friday, once we, you would have to sign it.
I'm not really sure, some of this is new, pretty good on a lot of the process.
But I would say it has to be signed first.
Yeah, as soon as it's signed, so the way for the public to see it, posting that, because one of the things we're gonna be looking at is, or getting their help with, is how we're gonna communicate as soon as we're ready to start communicating. So I guess this would be the first public request, is how we're gonna make documents available specific to this project, whether it's on the school site, whether it's its own site or otherwise. So we'd say, as soon as it's signed, what do you think,
Well,
until we get that guidance?
You can have
what's
a copy
appropriate?
of the what was just approved without anything on it that was tonight, so you can have the contract that's.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
It'd be a
that's
good
not a
start.
problem. Yep.
I'm really curious to see what the scope is, and you brought up some good questions. What is pertinent, and do they have the skill set to be able to make decisions, which related to school needs. A strategic plan which could have and should have addressed those needs, but we didn't choose to do a strategic plan that focused on those needs. You mentioned a public meeting. You mentioned you were going to have a meeting on Friday. Is that a public meeting as well? Is that for the CIP, or what is that?
Oh, I'm sorry. So one, I want to acknowledge to everybody watching that I'm breaking our policy by having an exchange where we're able to do this in a productive manner. That's my choice to take that risk to go against our own policy. So I also want to be respectful of total time. The meeting there's not a CIP meeting confirmed to happen. It's not Friday. Russ's meeting with Gordon, that's their meeting. Andy and I aren't going to be there. The committee isn't going to be there. So when there's a committee meeting, those are public meetings that are posted.
Have they been posted? Because I remember on last month that there were three meetings prior to the March meeting.
And those are all posted.
I never saw any posting of those meetings.
Yeah, they were posted. And I want to be careful that we don't meander so far off that we dissuade others from comment. So
okay.
I hope this is illuminative to all of you, but I do want to guide us back to the discipline. If you have, you've probably got about 2 minutes left if you have other statements.
One other question. The select board, and Jesse, we've talked about this too, the select board is very good at putting all of those documents that you were looking through online. And so that the public, while we're sitting here, we also will have access to them. I know you mentioned that there were some that would not be purview for the public to see. But others, I think, to encourage transparency, I would love to see those. It would be great for us to be able to see those, that information that you were looking at.
Thank you for your comments and time. Thanks, Jen. John, did you signal you wanted to speak?
Oh, there you go.
Mr. Tether?
Hi, Harry Tether from Brookhaven Hill Road. Who is on the building committee, stakeholders from the community?
So the CIP, what's that?
Just have this
Oh, yeah,
conversation.
I'm breaking it again. So I'll play through, even though I'm now, I think, the fourth time. I've
What
read
is the
our
problem
policy.
with addressing that question? Why is that?
We went to great extent with respect to a reasonable question. The board went through a very lengthy process to update our policy so that we could continue to have public comment at our meetings when some comments and behavior within those forums strayed out far enough outside of what was acceptable to be threat of a lawsuit. So I would just say for questions around the committee and those things is we will keep informing the community, but within the public comment, it's really written to be that you make your comment and we say thank you. So I'm not meaning to be disrespectful, but I've strayed out of it, and I'm seeing already that the risk in that sending a mixed message. So I own that and I apologize. But we'll be informing the community of who's on what committee, when we're going to have more public participation. All of that will come.
So you're not looking for any questions, is what you said?
It's not a call and response. It's a chance for the public to state their opinions and make their comments so that we can hear from. The risk of what I'm doing now is this is a meeting in public, and it makes it a meeting with the public, and then we get outside of jurisdiction of fairness of everybody being included and all voices heard. So I'm going to try to bring us back from too much of a dialogue, and can certainly follow up with you and try to answer any of your questions.
So I'll hold the questions for a future time then.
Please. So I just demonstrated the risk in getting off policy, so learning experience for me. John, yeah, if you're nice and loud.
So John Augustine, my comments are toward what Representative Tanner presented on. And my understanding is, to put it bluntly, is there's just a big target on Sunapee from these other towns. I did attend the same forum that Representative Tanner was at last night. It was very passionate. people in the room. And they had a lot of facts and figures about what other towns have available to them to spend on public education and what Sunapee has to spend on public education. And the sentiment that I took away from that room is, we're going to take money from people who we think have it and give it to people in towns who think we don't have it. So what I think that does is put you as school board members in an interesting position and a different position than Representative Tanner. She represents 8 towns, so she has to answer to people in 8 towns. Where you, I understand, just answer and have your sole primary focus, not sole focus, primary on the betterment of the schools in the students in the school system in this town. So as we talk about these things and they're discussed in the state, I mean, every dollar that goes out of Sunapee to fund education in another town is just less money that this board and this town will have to spend on operating budgets and school renovations and things like that. So it's just an interesting position to be in that we can all support public education in general, but how much do we support Sunapee tax dollars leaving Sunapee to support public education in other towns? So it's just, I think we really have to pay attention to that closely, because if there's a big change in 2020 or 2021, that's just above and beyond any changes that would happen with the renovations and things that we're proposing. So that's just one comment. The second comment is, what concerned me is that all the talk last night and previously on this topic was about just moving the money around from town to town or person to person. There was no talk whatsoever about reducing the overall level of spending, or bending the curve, the growth rate of the curve of spending, or getting more bang for the buck for spending. It was just, our town needs more money, whether we're spending it effectively, wisely, or most productively right now or not. So just give us more money from your statewide property tax, a new income tax, a new sales tax, a new capital gains tax, something like that. But there was nothing about accountability and bang for the buck and things like that. So as this topic continues to go forward, which I'm sure it will, in addition to moving money from town to town, I hope every once in a while somebody interjects and asks, are we using the money that we're having spent currently in the most productive and the best manner?
Thank you for your comments, John. Seeing no other motion for other voices, thank you for the public comments. Agendas for next meeting. So we're going to have, I'm always going to lead with this, we're going to have an update on the project and requisite steps, updates with that, review notes, and then prep for graduation. Really going to say that?
So you may have a.
It's hard to believe.
You're going to have potentially a proposal in front of you for an architect that I think that is the goal. And whether we get there or not, but that is the goal. You will also be given, well in advance of the meeting, our data protection plan, which is in line with the new data protection policies that Linda spoke to briefly regarding protection of student personal identifiable information. Our technology committee, our technology director has been working diligently on that, and it's a very lengthy document that's going to take some time for you guys to get through. I also want to bring the adjustment council in. She's been on board a year. I'd like her to come in and give an overview of her year. And with the data protection plan, you'll also have a policy that you need to pass. Scott, we actually did it early in the year. If you remember, we tabled it. We're now bringing it forward.
So we'll be meeting sometime in the near future?
We don't need to meet because we already did the policy. So we're not going to, that's the only one policy that we're bringing. I'll send it to you to remind you of it. But we did it at the last time we met, and I said we'll have to put it on hold because we needed to wait for us to get the plan done, make sure there wasn't any differences between the two.
Pretty meaty agenda. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Just trying to rack my brain with the spring rituals the last few years. All right, so it is 7:55. I'm looking for a motion to go into non-public, covered under RSA 91A3. just kept setting my brain up to it, I have it right here. And the motion can go by just saying 91A3, I'll explain what it is. It's the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employer, or the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of charges against him or her, unless the employee affected has the right to go to the meeting and request that that meeting be open, in which case the request will be granted. So I get a motion.
I'll make a motion to go into non-public 91A3.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Scott. All right, so, all in favor of going into non-public session? I'm getting,
You need a roll call. Go ahead.
sorry, I missed the roll call. We haven't done this for a while, so
No.
I'm a little rusty, and I would have benefited from a snack here.
It's cookie behind you.
Roll call.
Aye.
Yes, from Ed.
I,
Aye from Carrie. Aye from Andrew. Scott's there. Scott gave me the nod. And I'd say, let's absolutely do that. All right, so we come out and we go home. So this is the end of the public section.